I'm Sam.
And today we have a really exciting guest, a repeat podcast guest, no less. Sarah from My Handmade Wardrobe is joining us.
Hello, Sarah.
Hi.
Hello.
This is so exciting. We haven't had a repeat guest yet.
Was Sarah our first ever guest as well?
No, Yvette was.
I
close
can't wear
there.
that crown, I'm afraid.
Sarah was one of the first guests we recorded, though, because we don't record in order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I also have to say, when I did that intro just then, I so nearly said that I was Sam. Don't know why. I was reading because Sam's screen name is Sam and Jess because she's on our account, and I just read that and I was like, I'm not Sam.
I'm interchangeable. That happens. That happened with me and Freya. We've just become the same person, basically. Just different places, different times. It's quite useful.
Yeah, it is definitely. I've already got Mary doing that. I'm happy to absorb as many people as I like. What did you describe me as? Some kind of conglomerate, didn't you?
Yeah,
Jess,
I described you once as a loose conglomerate of warring tribes, I think.
Brilliant.
But
you're welcome into that. I've seen you sewing Jersey, Jess, so it's working.
Do you know I have been, although with a caveat that I've only sewn one true jersey. I've sewn two stretch knits that are cozy, like Angora style.
That counts.
It has to, because they're the only jerseys I like. So I've sewn stretch, but I have sewn a Tilly and the Buttons pearl for my sister for her birthday, and her birthday is in April. And she said to me, am I getting my cardigan in April? And I was like, well, you've not chosen the fabric. So she chose the fabric in May, and I said she'd get it at some point this year. So
it's been
year.
Made. You're good. You're in.
Oh, and it's a nice, do you know what? It's a nice antidote to the other stretch fabric I'm working with at the moment. Can I have a moan?
Yes, go for it.
I'm 2 bridesmaids dress out of 4 done currently.
Wow. Yeah.
And I am using stretch velvet.
Mm.
And it's going fine, guys. It's going fine. But when they're like 12 to 16 hours each, and I do about 8 hours on each with the person there I'm fitting. And by the end of that, I'm literally staring. There's like crumbs of velvet all over the house, all over me, all over the machines. I've literally vacuumed my overlocker because I was then sewing something for my main wedding dress, and I was like, I can't have it dyed green from the tiny velvet fluff.
No, that's the right way to go. Definitely.
It's driving me
velvet
insane.
is very sheddy.
The thing is, I love it. I love sewing with it. Also, I'm going to throw a hack out there because it'll be October when this goes out. People will be sewing with velvet for Christmas outfits and for whatever. 2 things. Firstly, overlock everything as you go because it does really help. But also, if you want to stick a velvet facing down, because you can understitch it, but they roll so badly, I've been sticking them together with Wonder Web and a pressing cloth over the top. And I've still been understitching, but it works so well. It feels like cheating.
You can buy like little thin tape version of that, can't you? Because I've got that. Yeah,
that's what I got in my local sewing shop.
At the weekend, different Sam, was using a basting glue. And that was fantastic because it doesn't gum up your machine. So it's made for it. So you just basically put it on like Pritt stick. And then she was just like sticking everything down, labels, the fly facing. We were making some jeans. And it was just like, this is magic.
That is genius for labels. Again.
Yeah.
So let's sparkle with Sam. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Who is fantastic and will be on the podcast in future. Once all of the diaries and the stars align, it will happen.
And a very good saleswoman.
She is. Now, she makes me want to buy everything. Now, how are we doing? I'll shut up about my wedding sewing.
I think we better talk biscuits first, hadn't we? So we've already asked Sarah what biscuit she is. So I was thinking, whilst driving today, about asking a slightly different question. I was going to ask you both, when was the last time you ate a biscuit? And what was it?
Oh my goodness.
I'm eating them now.
I wish I was. Why am I not eating a biscuit while talking to you? This is just criminal.
Mitch inspired me. Mitch baked biscuits for his podcast episode, and I was like, this man is a genius. Why?
He is, definitely. Well, I've just come back from a run, so I should be eating biscuits as like a well done for actually getting out and doing something. But I'm not, which is, a crime.
Can you remember when you last ate a biscuit?
Yes. I had some delicious biscuits at the weekend. They were Marks and Spencer's, and they were they pistachio? Yeah, they were pistachio and chocolate chip cookies.
One of my colleagues brought those into work. I'd never had them before. They're amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, and the packet's really pretty as well, which I just get a lot of joy from.
I'd never had pistachio biscuits like cookies before, but they were good. Yeah.
Yep.
Sam, when was the last time you ate a biscuit?
About 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, like...
I just need to bring... Now, I'll have to describe this. Obviously, Jess and Sarah can see it. It is an entire fancy border, and it says classic sharing pack. That's a lie, isn't it? You don't need to share that with anyone.
No one needs to know.
Share it with yourself.
Yes. So for our listeners, it's got like a lovely cardboard bit round the bottom of the cuboid, and then a clear top so you can view all the biscuits in there. We were actually given this as a thank you by my stepdaughter's friend because we took her to Thorpe Park. So there's about 1, 2, 3. There's 6 different types in there. I just had their version of a Viennese whirl. Might be the best Viennese one I've had. It's got chocolate on the bottom. How do they describe it? Yeah, chocolate Viennese whirl.
Oh, that sounds good. I mean, Borders biscuits are great.
Well, I've never seen this before. I obviously am not shopping extensively.
I mean, I should say I've never seen the equivalent of a collector's case of biscuit, which is what you have.
That is a collector's case. Yes, it is. Yeah,
that's the kind of thing you buy in a garden centre.
Like it is, or like a House of Brewer, or like a sort of country department store.
Yeah.
I need to read what's on the back as well for the moments that matter.
Ooh,
that at Borders we know how special biscuit moments can be. I think we need to tag them in a photo, don't we, Jess?
I think we should. I think we. And if they want to send me any of their chocolate chip shortbread, I will give them my address. It's phenomenal. Well, the last time I ate a biscuit was about 5 minutes ago. But I do have a fun story. So, as everyone knows, I am a big fan of the biscuits you get in selection boxes. I'm showing one on camera now that are like chocolate rounds, and they're like mostly chocolate with some biscuit in the middle. And they were my favourite as a kid. Yeah. I don't eat them often because
they're quite fancy, aren't they?
They're quite fancy. But a whole pack of them as well for the Foxes ones do leave you feeling a little bit sickly. But I was in the shops, and tiny digression to wedding sewing, I finally cut my final wedding dress out.
Yay!
Hooray!
Well done.
And I spent my weekend doing corsetry to the extent where I was basting on the mannequin, so my arms were at a right angle for 4 hours, and now they hurt so much.
Oh, I know that.
I didn't notice. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I didn't notice. And suddenly I put my arms down. I was like, oh my God, they don't work. And I was a bit like, and Adam went, do you want a biscuit? I was like, obviously. And then as I was going to pick up, now, folks, I'm holding up the wrapper so that the girls can see. I have the milk chocolate ones. So the Foxes milk chocolate rounds. They're basically shortbread covered in chocolate. As I'm going to pick this up, Adam dives onto the white chocolate version of those and go, well, I'm having these. And I was like, well, I'm having the milk chocolate ones. And I was like, can I trade you one? And he's like, maybe. And I was like, tell you what, I'll give you 2, you give me 2. And he went, fine, but I'm not happy about it.
Well, I think we should take a moment just to mention the box of Fox's biscuits that Ruan, the Yorkshire Sew Girl, sent us.
Oh. Yes, she has links with Foxes, and she very sweetly sent us a very, very big box of assorted biscuits, which went down very well with, I'm imagining, did Ben get near them, Sam?
Oh, so when the box arrived and I opened them, I had to ban him from going near them. I said, Jess needs to see these first. I'm seeing her tomorrow. Keep away. So I then had to bring them into my office where I work to supervise them. So then Jess and I did what I can only describe looked like a dodgy deal out the back of my boot.
We did. It was pitch black, guys, as well.
Down an alley
at night.
Near a train station, with just the torch of our phones as we looked at the ingredients on these biscuits, and Jess took the ones that she wouldn't have an anaphylactic shock from.
That's my preference generally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did look dodgy as.
That's
really did.
Commitment to the biscuit, I have to say. Meeting in a dark alley to
be clear,
biscuits. I mean,
Sam was driving me home. We didn't just find an alley. She stopped and went, "Oh, we have to give you biscuits," and we swapped items because I had a book of Sam's. Yeah. She had a podcast mug for me and biscuits, but it did look dodgy. It did.
Next time I'm getting my old vintage suitcase out and I'm opening up like a vintage case with them in it.
So you strap them all in with labels, like a spiv.
So the 2 packs that I know you're not allergic to are still in the boot of my car to prevent him from eating them, so that when we plan season 3, we can eat them.
Oh, so I'm tempted to give him some at the wedding. My God.
So the rest came into the house and he has progressively munched his way through those. I've had a little look in. He got a bit sensitive when I ate one of the mint Rockies. And the other day he had to borrow my car because I had his, which he isn't a big fan of doing. And when I got home, he went, "There's still packets of biscuits in your boot. Why are you withholding biscuits?" And I was like, "They are not for you." So it's like, I don't know how many people get accused of withholding biscuits and their other half, but you know.
Well, so I think I had 2 packs I could have because for those who don't know, I have a really severe nut allergy, so some stuff I can't have. So that hence why we were reading ingredients with our phone torches, because I will stop breathing. So I came home with 2 packs of biscuits, and I had the honeycomb chocolate ones, and I had the chocolate orange ones because my partner is very partial to anything that's remotely related to a chocolate orange. So I gave him that pack, and he was delighted. You are very popular in our house, Sam, because it always involves there being a lot more biscuits whenever you come over or whenever I've seen you. And I had the honeycomb ones, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know." And they were fantastic. They were so Moorish. So that's my biscuit recommendation of the week, is the Fox's like chocolate-covered honeycomb ones. Would recommend, guys.
Now, I need to bring to both of you some biscuit controversy.
Oh.
Somebody messaged on the podcast Instagram account and said they take issue with a pink wafer biscuit being classed as a biscuit. They are not on board.
I mean, it's in the biscuit aisle. Like,
what are
Sarah, do you know the ones we mean? The Pink Panther wafer ones?
Yeah,
Where do you stand on this, Sarah?
Well, it's tricky because if you're saying that a pink wafer biscuit isn't a biscuit, then is a Kit Kat not a biscuit? Because that, as just previously discussed, is the pink wafer that's not pink with chocolate around it. So, and
then you've got Jess's whole biscuit theory if they're not biscuit.
Yeah, and those Tunnock's wafer.
Oh my God, Tunnock's caramel wafers are biscuits.
They're biscuits.
They just are. I mean, they're iconic, and then they're biscuits, but you know.
But you see, Kit Kats are sold in the chocolate aisle.
Maybe they're confectionery. Oh goodness.
I don't know, because to me, in some ways, you have to take an exclusionary tack to this, which is if it's not a biscuit, what is it?
Yes.
Because it's a sweet, sort of crunchy thing. It does go soft when it goes stale.
Mm-hmm.
It does have sort of, I mean, a wafer's not dissimilar to any other type of biscuit within a biscuit.
And we accept that biscuits can be covered in chocolate.
Yeah, well, of course.
That is an acceptable parameter for a biscuit.
About 80% of biscuits are covered in chocolate of some kind.
Like,
I'm not having that. It's deciding to be controversial.
So
I think
seasons.
So. The thing is, right, I could say a Kit Kat is a chocolate bar if I wanted to irritate Jess. I won't.
You could. It looks like you might.
But a pink wafer biscuit, what else could I describe that as? Sarah says, if it isn't a biscuit, what is it?
Yeah. Like a sugary snack. I don't know.
Oh, that's not a department.
Okay, can I offer something here?
Yes.
I have a philosophical pronouncement, I think. I think in order for a wafer to be a biscuit, there have to be multiple layers and it be glued together with something.
It is with that lovely.
I think an individual wafer on its own of the type one would put in an ice cream cone isn't a biscuit.
That's a wafer.
Exactly. But layers of wafer, I think, by a cumulative property become something else.
So I thought it was called
I would argue
pink wafer biscuit anyway.
It is called a pink wafer biscuit. And it's not as controversial as Jaffa cakes.
That's true.
There's a literal cake on those.
McVitie's tasty pink wafers. And then they call them pink wafer biscuits.
Yeah, well, they're made by McVitie's. They're a biscuit.
They're a biscuit.
That's
true.
I'm coming out on the controversy there and saying we're holding up the description as a biscuit on that one.
Now, we love you. Yeah, we should say we love you, loyal listener. Thank you for bringing this up. We don't agree with you, but we do love the fervour with which people message us about biscuits. It's beautiful. And thank you very much for listening enough to have an opinion on this as well. So we love to hear it. We love to see it. Thank you very much. Had
2 sets of biscuit recommendations this week on Instagram as well. One from Yvette and one from Tamlin.
Trying
out new biscuits. Oh yeah. So I think Yvette's is from Aldi and I can't remember where Tamlin's is from. Yeah, there are now people using us as a means to recommend quality biscuits. I mean, our work is done. It's all I can say, really.
I mean, our work will be done when we get sent more free biscuits. That's my that's my pinnacle.
Yes. I'm still having to spend too much of my own money on biscuits. This is not finished.
I'd like to be breaking even, you know. Oh my god, that's like I got 3 messages when I said Rocky Road was a biscuit, which it isn't really. It's a tray bake.
It's a tray bake, yeah. I mean, we let you have it because you disputed that there was digestive biscuits in it.
I ate enough to consider eating a biscuit, you know.
And also, Jess, if you need to do a whole pack of brownie, I'm letting you call anything you want.
Exactly.
To be honest,
you watched me do that as well. I just inhaled them. It's been a long day.
You can tell me the moon is the shape of a banana if you're eating that much brownie, and I'll agree with you. So
you're just looking at me going, "Oh dear, is everything you okay, babe?" You know.
Yeah. I'm just going to agree with you.
Shall we talk about sewing? That sounds like we have an awful relationship and we don't. I just can't be. We all have those moments, I think.
Yes. And I support you in it by not challenging you in those moments.
You do, and I support you by laughing at you when you fall off a sofa. That's my way of supporting you.
So, shall I tell everybody what today's episode's about?
Do it, why not?
Yeah. So today's episode is about sleeves. Somebody said to me at one of my socials, I'd rather sew a buttonhole than a sleeve. And first of all, I didn't relate, so I was happy to trade with them all my buttonholes for all their sleeves. But it got me thinking, and then it got Jess and I thinking, and then we thought, we know who we need to talk to. We need to talk to Sarah, because that person is not alone. I have reached out on Instagram today. And I've asked people for their feelings about sleeves, Sarah. Okay. They are very mixed, from people saying that drop shoulder sleeves shouldn't exist.
Why?
To people loving, to people loving particular types of sleeves very strongly. Challenges that we'll come to. So today's really going to be one giant dilemma, I think, really. People loving a flutter sleeve.
I love a flutter sleeve.
We've got people preferring, like me, sewing jersey in a sleeve. Someone here does not like raglan or dolman sleeves. You need to talk about what a dolman sleeve is, I think, for some people. Mm-hmm. This is the statement. Someone said, the hardest thing to sew.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Surprises me.
And then
it surprises me so much. Sleeves are not
invisible zips in the world.
I know. There are
flies. There's
I met someone the other day who said they love doing an invisible zip. So sleeves really divisive. Really, wow. I was surprised. Yeah,
I don't understand. Thinking about it, mind you, I don't ease in sleeves the way you're meant to, so that might be why I don't really mind. I often put them in flat and stuff like that because you don't really have to put them in. Unless you really need to set it in for like a jacket or something. Yeah. You don't really have to put sleeves in as a finished tube, as it were. I don't know, Sarah, if that's heresy or not.
That's my question at the moment. I'm asking myself, and I'm doing a bit of sampling around it, because I'm trying to work out, is there a problem with always putting a sleeve in flat? Because I find that much easier.
And you get a much nicer side seam as well.
Like people can do it.
This is the kind of peak prep I do for the podcast. I did a bit of research on this because I'm like you. I'm like, I don't understand why people find them difficult. I put most of mine in on the flat, even if the instruction says not to, because obviously then you don't have that challenge of putting a concave and a convex shape together.
Yeah.
Because that's I think the biggest issue for people. So I was like, okay, well, why don't all instructions just do it like that? Or why doesn't everybody just do it like that? So what I didn't realise until I did the research today is that if you do it on the flat, when you join it together, you actually create a bit more bulk under the armpit.
Yeah.
And then you end up with those whiskers coming from like the armpit.
Yeah. So then I found a third version, which is you set most of it in on the flat, apart from the very bottom bit. You then sew the side of the bodice and then set the very last bit, the underarm bit, like you would setting it in on the round.
Okay.
Right. I'm going to
Never
tried that. I might just have that off you.
I mean,
I can't credit it. I did research. I found it.
Amazing.
So, I don't know. I think there's a couple of things there, though. So I am the weird person. I do French seams on sleeves all the time because I can't be asked having seams in my armpit. Like, I don't want that in my life. So I don't always do it, but like I do it a fair bit, and I can do it flat or in the round. And I think the bit people get confused on with sleeves, I remember doing this, is a lot of people put them on. It's like, you know, when you sit down with an invisible zip and you have to figure out which way to fold the zip in order for it to end up the right way. I think a lot of people have bad experiences with sleeves because they get confused trying to put them in and either put them in backwards or inside out. And it's sometimes, I know a few people who I will not name who they find there's quite a mental struggle because they've done it wrong so many times.
Yeah.
It builds up a lot. So I do think there's a bit of that. But I also think with sleeves, and this might be my sort of allergic to instructions background, I do think one can read too much of an instruction. Just stick your sleeve in. Like, do you know how many times I hand gather the bit at the top because I can't be asked to do like a zigzag? So I will literally pin it until I know how much excess there is, and I will gently tuck it in by hand, pin it and just sew it.
But that's the difference, and I think that is that's the sticking point. You've got to feel it. It's not something you can explain. Like when I'm teaching people how to put sleeves in, it's like you've got to feel. Do the gathers feel even? Can you feel any big tucks? And like teaching somebody that to begin with is really hard. But once they get it, once they're used to kind of what a well set in sleeve feels like, that's it. You know, that's you're good. You're golden.
And you know I'm a queen of a shortcut, but it is the one place where I always cut the notches. And I always do a bit of a gentle gather to help with easing.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, you know, wherever I can, I do avoid things I don't have to do. But I always do those notches because I think if you like study sleeves as well, there's a reason there's a double notch at the back because actually it's not a symmetrical shape on most sleeves. And you know, that's because, as you taught me, Sarah, when I came and did some modelling for you, you need more space at the back to be able to move your arm in a 3D way. Otherwise, it will pull. And also, I think when you start learning to sew, we often think we need to put the pins parallel to the seam. But actually, particularly on a sleeve, you need to go perpendicular
always.
Because otherwise you're asking a curved bit to become straight because the pin is straight.
I'm also just going to throw something out there with that. You should always be pinning, as far as I'm concerned, perpendicular, because if you pin like laterally, the fabric can stretch with the pin. So there's no point really putting it in. You should always pin perpendicularly.
I use clips in many other parts of my sewing, but not in a sleeve because, again, the weight of the clip just doesn't makes it difficult.
That's so interesting, though. Because
what people do when they're starting out is they pin too much fabric. Like you just need to catch like 0.5 centimetre of the fabric, just the back, little bit at the back, a little bit at the front. Because otherwise, like you say, you're asking the pin to kind of hold everything, too much of the fabric in one place. And
and then you can't stretch
it, basically.
Well, I don't know what your opinion on this, Sarah, is because, again, it might be something I've been doing wrong, but I know some people stress a lot about there being tiny, tiny bits of excess in between each. But I think that's part of putting a seam in, because as you're sewing it along, it is a curve. It's a curve and a curve. So you are going to get a little bit of wiggle along because you're fitting two curves together. But that's right, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's fabric stretch. Most fabrics, even calico, has a little bit of stretch to it. So you have to ease. And again, it's something that it's how it feels. Once you get used to what it's like to ease two woven fabrics together, then it just clicks. But until then, it's like fighting it.
And the part of the sleeve is actually cut on the bias, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So there's even more stretch. So, and I think when I learned that the bit of material that's nearer the feed dogs gets pulled differently from the material at the top, so depending on which way you have your sleeve fabric can help you with that ease as well. Which way would you say, Sarah? So you can see the hole or you can see the bodice?
I would say, so you can see I would have it so that the gathered part that you are in, so the gathered part, basically the sleeve, is on top. Because then you can kind of stretch slightly from underneath.
Agreed.
And kind of, tickle the gathers into place.
The other thing I'm going to say is you don't have to do it all in a oneer. I think sometimes people freak out and they go, I have to sew all of this in a continuous circle. No, you don't.
And you can see them holding their breath, especially I've been there. It's like, just let it get to the end. And then they get to the end, they look at it and they go, oh no.
And I don't start at the armhole bottom bit. I start a bit up because then I've got that curve at the bottom to ease a bit as I get round there if there's any excess.
Yeah, wherever possible, you shouldn't really start at a joining point because that's like a weak point.
Yeah.
So whenever you're starting stitching, it's like with like hems, never start at a side seam. Like always start somewhere along the hem because otherwise you're basically creating like a join on a join and then
it's just weaker. I'm thinking about it. I think I always start at the first notch on a sleeve and then go down and around. I like to get the front totally flat and know where I am and know that like okay, I'm also going to throw something out there and I might be wrong and I would really love your thoughts, particularly as a with your pattern cutting hat on, Sarah. I also think a lot of people don't like sleeves because there are a lot of, particularly now, patterns on the market that are not very well drafted, particularly in the bust. So the underarm, the arm site isn't sitting right. So then the end sleeve may not be fitting. And I think sometimes that's people blame it on the sleeve rather than the bust fit. I don't know how accurate that can be.
Well, one of the things that people don't often think to measure is your vertical measurements. So like when we get a pattern, we measure our circumference measurements. So we measure our bust, our waist, our hips, etc. around the body, but it's just as important to measure, from your high neck point, the edge of your neck, down to your apex, down to where your armhole needs to sit, because that also will be totally different on every person. And once you kind of know to take those measurements as well, you can have a lot more control over, whether it's going to fit, basically, knowing whether it's going to fit before you've even done a toile or your finished garment.
Absolutely. And this is something, would you believe? Firstly, guys, I have done 5 drafts of my wedding dress. We'll talk about this in another one. As a woman who doesn't do toiles. But the other thing I have been doing is I'm sewing 4 bridesmaids dresses. Now, crucially, one of them is for a bridesmaid in Scotland. She can't come down to be fitted. So she has measured every single bit of her for me. But it has been fascinating because normally I sew for myself and I know what I kind of know what my measurements are. But sewing for 4 different people with very different measurements, even from like their neck to their waist.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of bridesmaids dresses and, it would be the extremes. You'd have a size 8 and a size 30. And you'd want to make the proportions look the same, but obviously things need to be placed in different places. And you'd have, maybe a size 18 person who is 5'2", and then you might have a size 8 person who's 6 foot. And like there would be
so difficult.
A lot of alterations.
Yeah. And it's this your distance from your neck to the end of your shoulder is such, it's so variable. And I looked up and learned how to do a small shoulder adjustment, and the difference it makes, and doing it properly rather than going, I'll just do a bigger seam on the sleeve.
Or cut away a bit. That's like, and then you end up with the
shifting the whole thing over. And also, I know in ready to wear clothes, the sleeves are always too long on me. So,
me too.
Yeah, I know that before I start, if it's going to be a full length item, the sleeve is going to be too long. It's great if it's a 3/4 length because it's full length on me, and I don't really like 3/4 length. But it's those things, because it's like you're saying, so you've got to really know the proportions of your body, because I know I've got a normal, average length torso, but a really short shoulder to bust length. So I have to bring the shoulders up, because if I don't, all of that sitting too low on me. And I made something the other day, and the bust dart was about 3 inches too low.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, whoa. And again, looking how you cut out the whole dart and shift that whole rectangle piece upwards, just to get it all in the right place. But yes, I was like, that is really low.
But I also think that because of ready-to-wear clothes, we definitely don't know where stuff is meant to sit on us sometimes.
No.
Like, so I was in, this is going to make me sound like Adam's mum, but I genuinely not. It's just he doesn't like shopping, but he really wanted a new suit for the wedding. And he was like, will you come with me? And I get a lot of these requests from friends, because as a sewing person, you go, well, that fabric's awful.
Yeah.
And that's really badly set. That's your role.
Yeah.
But I'm sat in the changing rooms, and there's this couple who are getting their son who's going to work in the city, like a wardrobe of suits. And then there is like a couple of guys trying stuff on, and girlfriends on their phone. She's like, oh my God, I'm bored. And Adam's trying on a suit, and he comes out and he's like, how do I look? I'm like, you look gorgeous, but come here. And I'm literally checking the shoulder distance on him and where it sits on, like, because obviously for a suit, it should sit like on like lower than your wrist. And it's all that kind of stuff where like, we don't know any of that really anymore in the same way. So it's really hard to check the quality of fit of the clothes you own. So then when you sew clothes, sometimes people get cognitive dissonance because they have put in a sleeve properly or they have made those adjustments, but it looks weird.
Yeah.
Because they're not used to seeing it as well, which is really interesting.
Yeah. We've got used to making do a lot because, of course, there's so many garments that are now in jersey that would have previously been only in woven.
Yeah.
So we kind of like when you have a pair of trousers that actually fits on your true waist, it feels weird for a while. And then you like go about your daily like work and stuff like that. You sit down and stand up and everything. And then you're like, I'm standing up and my trousers are still where they should be. Like I'm not having to like wrench them down or pull them up or whatever. They stay in the same place when you sit down. And then when you stand up, it's like magic.
Yeah.
That's wild. I know, but we're just not used to it.
So somebody said, I hate drop shoulder sleeves, but I think they're in the rarity. I think a lot of people prefer them because you don't have the same challenge, because you're not in that really challenging concave convex situation. And most of those patterns have them on putting in on the flat, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. And I think they do make things look more casual.
Yes.
Like
I'm wearing a drop shoulder right now.
Yeah. This has got like a panel here, and then it's got like a panel that goes all the way down. So it's kind of half and half. But one of the blouses that is from my range has got a drop shoulder deliberately because I want it to feel like really tunicky and really like, beach throw on or just like, relaxed. So it does create a certain look.
So I think fabric to type of sleeve is really important in the relationship with it, I think, as well.
And what you wear over the top of sleeves that have got a bit of volume to them.
This was going to be my next question. I love a statement sleeve. I do. I think they're fantastic.
Yeah.
Do we live in a country where anyone gets to see your sleeves for 90% of the year? No.
Good point.
It's infuriating. So I am looking over there right now because my legal wedding dress is over there. And actually, when does this come out? Middle of October.
Middle of October, yeah.
So you will have seen this by now, so I can talk about it. My legal wedding dress, because it's literally like 10 a.m. in the morning in Westminster Registry Office, so we're like super chill. I've made a Tammy handmade Priya with puff sleeves, and it's like basically a mini dress in like white jacquard. Really happy with it. I'm trying to find a coat to wear over my cute little puff sleeves. No idea currently.
You need a balloon sleeve coat, basically.
I do. You need a balloon sleeve or a bat wing or a dolman or a grown-on sleeve. That's what you need. I am the queen of the statement sleeve, so I have coats that are big enough to get the sleeve.
And you're also queen of the statement coats.
Yes.
For anyone who hasn't somehow seen, please make sure you look at Sam's Instagram. But Sam has a collection of coats, jackets, and cardigans to fit any situation ever. It is truly remarkable.
Colours to complement the outfit, sleeves to fit the right sleeve underneath. Yes.
Honestly, you're one patchwork jacket away from a V&A exhibition. It is.
Guess what I'm making right now?
No, you're not.
I am.
Oh my God. What is that? Number 8?
Number 9.
9?
Right, hang on. I can find. It is quite scary in my room right now because I'm in mid-project of many things. Can't see it. I am making a pink tiger striped quilted jacket right now.
Okay, I'm kind of obsessed with that. That sounds great.
Yeah, with green fabric on the other side, and I've actually for the middle part, I've not used wadding. I've used one of my nan's old flannel sheets.
Oh, nice.
So it won't be as thick, but it will create that warmth. So I had to really creatively cut that because that sheet had been used a lot. So in the middle, the flannel bit had gone, but by using the side pieces, I was able to do it. And so because of the stripes, I've quilted it in the stripes going downwards.
Oh, nice.
Hang on.
Have you got it?
Here is one piece. So then I've got to cut the exact shape out now, but I pre-cut just slightly bigger than the shape. So that's the back, that's the inside.
Ooh, nice.
Ooh. Oh, wow. That's when lovely. You said tiger stripes, I didn't realise.
Pictures of tigers.
Where did you find that? Actually, why am I asking? Where do you find all of these things?
This fabric has come from India.
It's nice. I like it.
Beautiful.
So for the listeners, shall I just give a quick description? So it's alternating stripes of cerise pink and Barbie pink with a tiger printed over the top that's almost like a flattened tiger, like a tiger rug printed pattern. I don't know how to describe it.
If I could describe it, it looks a little bit like one of the expansion packs from The Sims, where you could have the striped wallpaper, but in like the best way possible. I'm obsessed. But that's the colourway if anyone's struggling to imagine it. But it is genuinely beautiful. I'm obsessed with it.
The bias binding I'm going to do on the edges, black and white stripe.
Ooh, nice.
Oh my God, I just cannot even. Nice. I'm so excited for this.
But I can do a slight bit of sleeve chat from all the
So I was going to ask, how do you do your sleeves in your quilted jackets? Are they all the same? Are they different?
No. So the Havea jacket, which I've now sewn 3 or 4 times, that is a drop sleeve. So that's nice and straightforward. There's barely any curve to that at all because it's quite a low drop. So that means that you can easily do like a French seam. Yes. Or you can do like one of those flat fell seams if you want it to be reversible, because you don't need to do that on the round. The Tamara, which is I think the Grain Line Studio one, that's a full set-in sleeve. So that's tricky because if you're doing that, you've really got to think about how you're going to do the finish on that. I did French seams on the rest of that jacket though. That was a pre-quilted fabric and it worked really well.
Doing a French seam on a set-in sleeve is hard. For anyone who's listening who wants to do it, the key is reducing bulk, but grading. Don't just snip the whole thing off.
Particularly when you've got wadding as one of the layers.
Yeah.
Wow. I actually overlocked it to reduce the bulk and squeeze it all together before I did the other bit of the French seam.
That's a good idea. That's what we always recommended to people when they were doing quilting before they bound the edges anyway. So yeah.
Oh, that makes so much sense. How had I not thought of that?
Layers together, yeah.
Sam, you did actually inspire me to get my quilted jacket out that I started 2 years ago. It was from the Sewing Bee when Deborah was on with her beautiful pink quilted jacket, and I did make a start. So I have it out, made out of like
beautiful.
bits of denim and various blue things. And one day it might actually get finished. But thank you for inspiring me to.
You're very welcome. That pattern I've cut out in that fabric is actually the sewing bee one as well.
Yeah.
I like
nice.
That one. It's nice. Yeah. So the final one was a raglan sleeve one.
I love a raglan sleeve.
So
you don't look happy.
I was not happy. I'd already sized down because I'd already seen someone say this comes up big, and because of my narrow shoulders, I was like, right, I need to size down. And the problem with a raglan is you can't make any adjustments afterwards. If it's too big on the sleeve, you're stuck. And also, raglan sleeves create bulk underneath. And in a quilted jacket, I'm just not sure a raglan sleeve is the right sleeve for a quilted jacket. I tried it anyway. And it was one of the big pattern companies, their patterns.
I mean, I haven't made it, so obviously I can't attest, but I'm going to offer an alternate opinion on this, which is I am obsessed with raglan sleeves in jackets because they allow me to move without restricting my boobs in a jacket. I can lift my arms all over the place and the seam sits really, really nicely and I don't have to do a bust adjustment. Or if I do, I don't have to do it on the whole arm side and everything. But I know a lot of people like them because you get more mobility in them, particularly up and down. But that might not be the case in this instance.
Do you want to know the history of the raglan sleeve?
Yes, always.
I'm such a geek on sleeves.
Can we call the episode that? I know we were going to call it something else, but can we just call it...
I'm a sleeve geek.
That, or do you want to know the history of the raglan sleeve? Brackets sung to the tune of "Do you want to build a snowman?"
I can get my daughter in. She can do a rendition.
Can I do it? Do you want to know? I can't do it. No, that's
There's too many syllables, but I'm convinced we can make this work
anyway. So, right, are you ready? So the raglan sleeve was requested by the first Baron of Raglan, because during during the Crimean War, he lost his arm, and so he said to his tailor, I want you to create me a sleeve that's easier to get on and off and to move in. And so his tailor designed a completely new sleeve for him during the Victorian era that had never existed before. And of course, classic Victorian era, he went, what should we call it? Let's call it after me.
I mean, he wasn't wrong. When I dislocated my elbow, all I wore was stuff with raglan sleeves because I just didn't need as much shoulder movement to get it on. Yeah. So it does make sense.
The raglan can do that well, but also with certain patterns, and I'm going to say it, and I know some people love it, but the Wilder gown, it is impossible to adjust the bust in that because of the raglan sleeve. Now, I say impossible, someone could prove me wrong, but I tried to help someone do fit adjustments in it because you can't do a classic full bust adjustment in there because of the way it was all pulling across in different places. And I'm determined to master the narrow shoulder in a raglan sleeve, but it's hard. It's really hard for fit adjustments, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really difficult with the Wilder gown specifically, not putting it on blast because it looks beautiful on other people, even if I would look like a haunted Victorian child in it. Yeah. But, it's not my vibe. It's not something I can wear. However, I have seen some people where it's very tight on the bust.
Yeah.
And I have been looking at it going, where would you add excess? I suppose handing over to Sarah, really, where would you start with a raglan sleeve for adjustments?
Oh gosh, I mean, that's a tough one. I haven't really done much with raglan sleeves when it's not been in either a gathered garment or a jersey garment, really. I just don't think they don't work so well because of those problems, get the pulling. You've just got to kind of add more to the centre, basically, and make it a looser fitting.
In the front, wouldn't you?
Yeah, make it a looser fitting garment all over. I don't think you can have a really fitted raglan sleeve garment if you've got.
Could you take a wedge out of the shoulder at the top, almost drawing a wedge like that to reduce some of the neck as well?
Yeah, I have got a pattern where you've got a dart, and it's kind of like it's covered over with a patch, but it's got a dart that goes from the top of the neck down to just below the shoulder point on a raglan, and that's how they kind of created that.
Speaking of, we'll put that pattern in the show notes so people can go look at it if they're interested. Also, the Size Me Sewing, is it the VN? I think it's the VN blouse, because I tested it. Has a raglan sleeve with a dart at the shoulder. And it was for a very long time. I broke mine because it was in chiffon French seamed, and I didn't, it was my first ever French seamed garment. And I didn't realise that chiffon had its own challenges of fraying that I needed to address before French seaming it. Anyway, but it was my favourite thing to wear to work, because as an event manager, I did need to lift my arms around and carry stuff and all sorts of things. And it gave such a nice professional fit while, again, being able to move my arms. But I do love a shoulder dart, actually. You don't see it very often. I think it's really beautiful.
Maison Fauve love a dart coming from that area, don't they?
I love Maison Fauve as well.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with their hussard jeans. If anyone wants a cute little straight leg jean pattern, I'd recommend, because there's like cute little darts in the pockets. It's adorable. Anyway, sorry, side note. Now, Sam has a sleeve quiz for us, I believe.
Now, it's not highbrow, because obviously this is a non-visual form of entertainment.
Yes, being visual is what makes things highbrow.
This is going to become a round. This is going to have to become a round in our Crafty Camp annual quiz.
Oh my God, we'll come and administer it. We will we'll come and bring chaos for like an hour.
We'll record it like some Taskmaster episode or something.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to describe a sleeve, and your job is to tell me the name of the sleeve.
Are we taking turns? How are we doing this?
Oh no, I think it's fastest buzzer where it gets in
I
there.
haven't got a buzzer.
Neither do I.
You just have to shout your name.
We got a squeaky toy or something, no?
Yeah,
well,
sorry,
whilst you're composing yourselves, I'd just like to say that in the history of sleeves originally were just a piece of a rectangle with a gusset underneath to create the movement and the fold.
I don't think of other bits of clothing having gussets, but I suppose they do.
Like a triangle gusset under there.
Yeah, like diamond gussets. They're all over diamond gussets.
Yeah.
In the 20s and 30s.
Yeah, that's how most sleeves were originally done. Right, are you ready? Are you in the zone?
I mean, I'll give it a go. I'm zone adjacent.
Staying in or staying out the podcast, depending on how this goes.
My God, it has to stay in.
I'm excited.
And I feel like it should be its own like YouTube segment.
This might be the bonus content. We'll see how it goes. Right, are you ready?
Right, yeah, let's do it.
A long sleeve, fuller at the bottom than the top, gathered into a cuff.
Yep.
Sarah?
Bell sleeve.
No.
Is it a balloon sleeve?
No.
Oh, is it? It's not the leg of mutton sleeve thing, is it? Or is that the other way?
The opposite way.
No.
That's the other way.
This has just got a cuff at the bottom.
I don't know. I think I'd call that a bell sleeve.
It's fuller at the bottom than the top. It's not the same fullness all the way down. It does begin with B, by the way, but it's not balloon.
I've made like several of these.
Very popular in the 1940s, if that's any help.
Does it have a separate piece that creates, or is it gathered to create?
No,
fullness?
it's all one piece.
Oh, I really don't know that.
Wow, we've started strong there. On the first one.
We have, however, named a range of other sleeves, which I think gives us bonus points.
It is the bishop sleeve.
Oh, bishop sleeve.
We did know that. Because if anyone wants a garment, I think it's important we do this with every question. If anyone wants a garment with a bishop sleeve, the By Hand London? That's what they're called, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That is a company, yeah.
Yep.
The Hannah wrap dress has a bishop sleeve option. So too does the Cashmere at Rose Claire, because that's what I've made it on. It has a really nice bishop sleeve. So if anyone wants to go and look at what on earth we're talking about and goes, oh my God, that sounds great.
I will try in the show notes to put a link to like a visual of these. So, right, are you ready for the next one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, bring it on.
Right, a long sleeve fitted from the shoulder to the elbow, and then flares somewhat dramatically from elbow to wrist, often features ruffles on the cuff.
Cuff?
Ooh. I mean, is that a bell sleeve? Am I just going to say bell sleeve for every
maybe
for them all.
New episode title, is that a bell sleeve? And that's just all we call it. Is it a trumpet sleeve or something silly like that?
Oh no, but it is a name. So I think you need to channel the 1980s here. You need to think of like Adam and the Ants. So really thin at the top, then a lot of sleeve going on with ruffle.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I can see it in my head.
Begins with P. That's my clue for you.
What would you call that?
Would you like to know?
Yeah.
A poet sleeve.
Oh.
Okay, you got us both
I've come
with that
across
one.
a poet sleeve before, but I can imagine what a poet sleeve would be like.
Yeah. Side note, this is surprisingly fun, actually.
Yeah.
I think we should do this more.
Yeah.
Right,
I'm learning
here we go. Right, third one. I do hope our listeners are shouting their answers out loud whilst listening to their podcast on the tube.
We will give a shout out to anyone who sends us a photo of their if they've been writing down the answers as we go. We will give you a shout out. And bonus points, extra bonus points if you're right. I will send you biscuits if you got all of these right.
Right, here we go. The third one. Ready? It is a short sleeve covering only the shoulder and not extending beyond the armpit level.
It's a cap sleeve.
Yes!
Yay! I love a cap sleeve.
It's a bell sleeve.
Right. I think it's only fair you tell us, is there a bell sleeve in the list?
Yes.
Oh, good,
yes.
Keep listening. Right, this one has two names. One I think is probably French, and the other one is a different name. I nearly gave it away there.
Okay.
Right, it's a sleeve that is extremely wide over the upper arm and narrow from the elbow to the wrist, and during the Victorian era would sometimes use between 2 and 3 yards of fabric per sleeve.
My giddy aunt.
Is that your leg of mutton sleeve?
It is. Because they are enormous.
Can you imagine 3 meters? Just having that.
Yeah. That's a sleeve that's made for sitting down, isn't it? Let's be honest. You're not going through doors with 3 meters of fabric on your arms.
No, I'm for smuggling things as well. Can you imagine how many biscuits you could get in there?
Oh my god, that would be the only way to get through like Regency dances, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Just have like sort of
an easy access as well. You know, it's not kind of pockets down at the bottom.
Yeah,
people
some of the amazing ones had like slashes in them, didn't they, with other colours showing through. Not in the Athletic Serpent, which was the TV adaptation of the book with Claire Danes and Tom Hiddleston. She had some amazing like slashed sleeves in like jackets with other colour underneath. They were phenomenal. For many, many bonus points, do you know the other name for the leg of mutton sleeve?
Oh.
Somebody out there is feeling really smug if they know this.
Is this the one you thought was French?
I think it's a French word, yeah.
Is it? Oh no, I do know this. It's in my Chanel book. I have a book where it's got like all of the types of sleeve, and it begins with a G.
It does.
Is it like is it a Gigo or a Gigo or something?
Yes, amazing, Jess.
That's only because I have an oddly good memory for things I've read.
Yeah.
I have a great pattern book with it in. I think I have no idea, but it's in there.
Well, particularly if it's pronounced Gigo, because it's Gigot, and if the T's not pronounced, it's often French, isn't it?
Mm.
Who can say?
Wow. Cool. Should we do one that I'd never heard of before my research?
Mm.
Ooh,
Are you ready? A fully panned or pansied sleeve gathered into 2 puffs by a ribbon or fabric band above the elbow, worn in the 1620s and 1630s.
Ooh.
Not an era I'm familiar with.
Not an era I'm familiar with for costume.
Yeah.
I did like... Where are the puffs? Explain to me again. Where are the puffs?
Right. So it's 2 puffs at the top. So you've got one and then the second one.
And
so
it's
like
got
a
the
puff
rhythm
from the shoulder and then a puff, and you've got the ribbons tying in between.
Yeah.
So you think like Francis Drake with his big puffy like short things as well.
Has it got a silly name or a sensible name?
It definitely doesn't describe it, but then I'm not sure. Well, leg of mutton. I know it looks a bit like a leg of mutton, but really, why did we call it that?
No, it's called a leg of mutton because that's what they're hiding in it.
Yes.
So I tell you this one. It's a virago.
Virago.
Oh no, a virago.
A virago, okay.
Which is,
I would say it's not a popular sleeve.
Oh, that sounds
nowadays.
Italian. Is that Italian?
Yeah, probably.
I think it's like a Genoese smuggler type vibe, I think.
Yes. Right. Okay. Bear with. I'm just finding the next one.
Ooh. Sam has done her research here, can I just
really
say?
Has.
Like, I also think, oh my God, I've just Googled what a virago is to remind myself. And it's a loud, overbearing woman or a termagant, which is also one of my favourite words, can I just say?
Termagant.
The word termagant has gone out of fashion and I, for one, am bereft.
Right. This one is a very short description. A 2-piece sleeve that overlaps to form a certain shape, but I can't say it because it's the name of the sleeve.
Oh, it's a butterfly sleeve, isn't it?
Mm-mm.
Is it either a petal or a tulip sleeve?
It's a petal sleeve. Yeah.
Oh, because yes, I see.
Yeah.
I like that sleeve.
You only see those in ballet stuff. You don't see them in mini patterns anymore.
Oh, you do when I fall down the hole that I've been down looking at different sleeve designs. Not recently, actually. I'm obsessed with like looking for these details with like darts and all sorts.
This is why Sam does the podcast research. Can I just say I do not fall down these rabbit holes?
I do have.
We haven't even talked about all the trousers I've sewn lately either, have we, Jess? So.
We're going to have to do, I think, trouser Pictionary to follow up on the sleeve quiz.
Right, last one then. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Plain at the top and wrist ballooned out halfway between the waist and the elbow is cut in 2 pieces with a seam going around the sleeve at the fullest part.
I'm going to let Sarah answer this.
Lantern sleeve.
Correct.
Hey.
It's one of my personal favourites.
If anyone wants I know Sam has a good pattern with this as well, because I think you were wearing a lantern sleeve the other day. But the Chalk and Notch Wren as well has a really nice one. Really nicely drafted. I'm a big fan.
So the pattern I like is free. It's the Romy Lantern Sleeve by Tiana's Closet. And it's very nice and free, which always makes it good. But I am going to sew a lantern sleeve shaped quilted jumper this autumn.
Ooh, nice.
So I saw someone make one on YouTube and I was like, that needs trying. I need to see
sounds amazing.
What fabric are you going to make that out of? Because it needs something with a little bit of structure.
Yeah. So I'm gonna use pieces of corduroy to patchwork the front. Then some kind of wadding in the middle, haven't decided what, and then the inside I might do sweatshirting, or I might use the sweatshirting as the wadding. So yes, it will have some structure. It will hold the shape of the lantern sleeve.
Ooh, that's cool. Can we also, for our listeners, tell them what a bell sleeve actually is? Because we may have confused some people.
You mean I need to go to my comprehensive list and tell you?
Will you ever stop being a teacher, can I just say? The full lesson prep for the pod.
Let me just refer to the Encyclopedia of Sleeves that I have here.
Yeah, hang on a minute. Just I printed out my lesson plan. You'll be proud to know that on my drive to Slough this morning, I actually listened to a podcast about sleeves as well.
You are so extra.
Oh my God, that is not what I listened to this morning on my run.
I was driving for an hour and 20 minutes today. It was a good opportunity to prep.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Right, so official definition of a bell sleeve: a long sleeve that is fitted from the shoulder to the elbow and gently flared from the elbow onwards. The bell sleeve is very similar to the poet sleeve, but has a cleaner look, often without ruffles.
It's nice. My favourite bell sleeve is the Made My Wardrobe Amaya shirt. It's a 2-piece bell sleeve because it's a raglan at the top and then it has a gathered section so it flows down. I've made 3 of them, I think, and they're like my favourite. So if anyone wants a very accessible, beginner-friendly bell sleeve, I would vote the Emea shirt. It's a nice one.
I'm just not good with a big drapey sleeve. I just will get it in things.
They do make you feel fancy though, don't they?
Yes,
like
they
our
do.
Bellissima blouse has got a big like sleeve option, and like that has been the most popular because people just feel fancy wearing it, and
I love being fancy, but I need a cuff at the end just to stop me fancy and messy, I think.
When the fancy stops, stop.
The mess starts, I don't know why that's not good. So before we let Sarah tell us what she's been up to, I know we've mentioned this, but one of the things that's come up several times in people's messages about sleeves is the struggle with not understanding the concept of easing it in or getting the gathers correct. I think, as we said earlier on in the pod, that's the biggest thing. So I think our lasting sleeve message should be around that. So Sarah, I know you've mentioned it a bit, but what would your lasting message for sleeves for the world be?
So I would say, and Jess is going to have me up on this.
I promise to be nice.
Always do your 2 rows of stitching. 1.5 centimetre away from the edge and 1 centimetre, or at least well within the seam allowance, with your long stitch length so that you can pull them and gather them in. And the bottom 2/3 ish of the sleeve should just be set in flat, and then the top bit like eases in, but there shouldn't be any gathers unless it's a gathered sleeve. And I think if you're new to sleeves, choose a gathered sleeve. It's much easier. And then,
it's forgiving because people don't know, for sure. I would also say, though, no one will ask you whether the pattern you're sewing was intended to be a gathered sleeve.
Yes.
So if it ends up looking gathered, no one will know.
Exactly. I would also say, if like me, the thing is, when I first started sewing, I did used to do the gathered bits because, as Sarah said earlier, once you get a feel for it, you just kind of figure it out. And like I know when I was doing a blazer, I did actually do proper gathers for that because there was like a whole shoulder set that I had to do. But what I would say is, don't be scared of a little bit of excess all around. It will be it's meant to be. Just try not to yank it through the machine so you end up with a load of excess at one side. Just feed it through gently. I also don't know what you guys think about this. I would say a long stitch length because you can always sew over it again.
Well, I was just going to be controversial and say perhaps try basting some to start with.
Baste it in. But also, no one will know if you sewed it in 4 goes either. No one will know if you did a bit, stopped, repinned, that's fine. No one's going around saying how many knots and back stitches are in your seam. No one knows.
No, exactly.
So
there's also, one more question, Sam, because there is one on here I can see, which is about overlocking sleeves.
Yes.
And this leads into something someone said to me in person, which is about, firstly, do you need to clip sleeves because they're a curve? Some people think you have to clip all curves, and that includes sleeves. Where do we stand on that? Is there a definitive answer, Sarah?
I don't think so, because you're not asking it to sit flat on your body. You're asking it to sit on a curve. So it's a curve that goes around a curve. Unlike, like a neckline, you're asking it to sit flat against a part of your body. So...
Excellent. So in that case, there's no problem with overlocking it. Like, you're not going to damage anything, and that's to be careful.
No.
It's fine to overlock a sleeve. If you're trying to overlock a curve, go slowly. My top tip for this is have every single bit of your garment on the left.
Yes.
As far as it can go.
On the table as well, not hanging off the table. I see, and I come up to them in classes and I'm just like, just going to put this on the table. And I can breathe.
Exactly. And I would say something I do sometimes with sleeves, because there's so much extra fabric and people do stress out, and I get it, particularly if you're doing French seams and you're snipping. I do a pin 1.5 inches, 2 inches away, and I pin the layers of fabric together, so I know nothing can get tucked back underneath.
That's a good tip.
Definitely. I
so
think
if you're worried about it,
people forget what pins are for, apart from like obviously holding a bit of fabric together. They're also to stop bits of fabric from getting in the way of what you're sewing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they do that admirably.
And I think learning, like you're saying, to feel things, when I'm overlocking, I'm constantly feeling that I can't feel a rump or a bump.
Yeah.
And it is because the more you do it, the less you have to think about the putting it through, and you can actually concentrate. So the second I feel any kind of disturbance, I stop and get my hand under and smooth, because I, like many people, have had the horrendous overlock incident where you've then got a big hole in some part of your garment.
There's nothing more upsetting.
And I would say as well with sleeves, there's not many a sewist who either hasn't put it in upside down, right side to wrong side, sleeve in the neck hole.
Yes.
We've all been there.
We've all done it. I once French seamed a sleeve perfectly and then picked it up and realised it was totally inside out. I was like, are you kidding? So it happens to the best of us. One final tip as well I'm going to shout out, and I know this is only going to be relevant to some people. If you have a dress form at home, mark your shoulder apex on your dress form, because sometimes gathers in sleeves for me sit oddly far back. So sometimes I like to reposition a little bit so it's actually like where it should be on the pattern. But if you are lucky enough to have a dress form, or even just measure where your shoulder apex is, but if you have a dress form, it can be really, really useful to just sling your bodice on it. And I always put a notch where my shoulder apex actually is. And then you can sort of adjust. That's a slightly more advanced, obviously, once you're a bit more comfortable. But I would recommend it. You can move them as long as there's some gathers up there to allow movement, I would say. I might be wrong, but I think you can adjust your gathers a little bit to make sure the whole point is to fit you. So don't be scared. You don't have to do what the pattern says necessarily.
And I will link in the show notes the other podcast I listen to, because it's completely different on sleeves, nothing like ours. There's no quiz in theirs. Come on, and all the other things I found, because there isn't a huge amount out there on sleeves. On my lesson prepping today, I was expecting to find a couple of good YouTube videos. I did not. So sleeves is something that's not talked about as much as I expected.
We would love photos of your sleeves. We would love anything. If you're sewing a sleeve while listening to this, send it in. If you are one of our biscuit tin community, please share photos of sleeves. Bonus points for sleeve fails. But let's get talky about it, and let's, particularly if you do have a horrific sleeve fail that you've recovered from now, share it. It'll make so many people feel better. Now, I'm going to let Sam's teacher voice reign free.
So, Sarah, this is your chance since we last saw you, because it must have been quite early on in 2024 when we recorded the pod with you, or end of 23, wasn't it? Because then we came and did the catwalk for you.
Yeah, that was after that, wasn't it? Yeah.
Which was fantastic fun.
Yeah, that was amazing. And then I've obviously seen you to do some modelling for you, my only modelling I've ever done. And you've been a busy bee. Yeah, it was about June, wasn't it? And you've been a busy bee this year. So what would you like to tell our listeners that you'd like them to know?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, it has been a busy, busy time. I always underestimate the summer holidays with having my daughter, who's 5. And I always think, I'm going to have loads of time. It's summer. I've got loads of energy, because I always feel more energetic at the summer, planning loads of things. And then they don't happen, because I'm like everybody, the sun comes out and I just want to be out in my garden and, going on holiday and stuff like that. So September kicks in and I'm like, right, okay, what am I actually going to do for the rest of the year? And I have launched a pattern making retreat. So I've run 2 before, but I'm at a new venue. So I'm at Bosworth Hall. It's a great venue. I've got lots and lots of space for teaching, and I've extended the pattern making retreat to 3 days rather than 2. So that will give people time to actually develop their blocks. So we fit a bodice block and then develop that into a finished pattern, and actually get some design development going on.
Oh, wow.
So I'm really excited about that, because that's the bit where it gets really, really great.
And didn't your one sell out? Your first
one? So that one has sold out. the one in January. In fact, it's oversubscribed because I've got the lovely Deborah Drake from Sewing Bee coming as well. As I'm doing some work with her as well. But I'll tell you a bit about that in a minute. But the retreats, I've booked in 3 more dates for early next year with my lovely friend Emma. She runs teachers retreats across the country, so she's got so much experience, and I'm really excited to be working with her on this because we'll bring a lot between the two of us. And yeah, I can't wait to run those, and hopefully there'll be another kind of 4 or 5 in the rest of the year, one over the summer, and then maybe 4 or 5 is a little bit ambitious, but there'll be a few more.
That's really great. That's brilliant.
And, such a brilliant opportunity as well to really spend the time and pick up the skills, because it's so hard. You go to an hour workshop at the Stitch Festival, whatever, and you don't really retain a lot of it.
No. What I always want is just more time with people, because the more time I can spend with them, the more they can build their confidence. We can experiment. I've done quite a few day classes, which are great. But sometimes it's a bit the pressure is on to get it right. And where the learning happens is when you get it wrong, or when, you're experimenting, you're trying out a few new things, you're making half scale trials and stuff like that. And that's there needs
where
to be
it all
more
happens,
time.
really. Yeah.
So we'll spend a whole half afternoon doing that.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's absolutely great. On the back of that, I'm also launching an online course. That is one that I've been saying for a little while. I'm going to be launching this, but it's got to be perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or close, and I've got a lot of knowledge up here, so I'm kind of trying to put it all across. The first course that I bring out is going to be an introduction to pattern making, and that's going to be a standalone course. And then beginning of next year, I'm launching a pattern making course, which is spread out over a year. With each month focusing on a different specialism. So we're going to be looking at sleeves one month. We're going to be looking at how you can take your basic sleeve block and you can create your bell sleeve, your bishop sleeve, your cap sleeve, your petal sleeve, etc. Thanks for all the inspiration, Sam. I'll be in touch. Another month we'll be doing things like facings, like how to draft your facings, what interfacing to use to make sure that it's right for the fabric that you're using. All the things that you might have picked up, you might know a little bit about, but I'm going to be basically saying, here's 20 ways to do this technique. Now go and play.
Yeah,
and that's the focus
find
on
what
it.
you like and works for you.
Exactly.
And it was quite interesting, not the last episode, the episode before, episode 5, where we talked about sewing as play.
Yes.
We had so much reaction from people saying that they were just delighted to hear that, and I agree with you, Sarah. The more I've sewn, the more I hence that's why I sewed 8 quilted jackets, because I wanted to play with the techniques and I wanted to play with the different fabrics. And now on my sleeve thing, I've already done a bit of slashing before, but I was listening to this thing and they were talking about how someone tried a different amount of gather, so a certain percentage. And actually now I have this desire to create different versions of it to see. And I do think that sometimes we get on this bandwagon when we've got to make things to wear, but actually, like other hobbies, when you paint pictures, you don't paint wall-worthy pictures every time, or when you're making things doing wood turning, you do lots of tryouts. And I think getting much more, as a sewist, into this mode of, I'm going to play with sleeves and I'm just going to use a bodice block that works on me and try lots of different sleeves in it. And I think that play and enjoyment, I almost feel like a scientist sometimes when I'm doing it, because there is that sort of there's that technical exploring, isn't there?
Yeah, it is an experiment. And I think one of the great things about about sleeves is you can take a bodice or just a pattern that you really like, a dress pattern for instance, and you can put any sleeve in it, as long as you know how to measure your arm size and tally that up and work out whether it's got the right amount of gather or, you know, excess volume, etc. You can put that in. And if you've got a bodice block and a sleeve block, you can draft any sleeve that you like. But a great way to start is with a tried and tested pattern that's already got a sleeve, and just take that sleeve and have a play with that. Make that into a petal sleeve, make that into a gather, put some pleats in it, you know, just have
Get some brown wrapping paper. Keep tracing it out, keep trying things out on it.
Absolutely. I think, and bed sheets as well, you know, just get yourself a bed sheet and make yourself like 3 or 4 sleeves, try them all in and see what you like the look of.
Also, just like one thing I have learned, and I will do a whole like series on this, but one thing I really have learned from sewing my wedding dress is you're allowed to just draw something and create like and make that real. Like
and you might like it.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's wild. Like, I don't know. I mean, I started with the front of one pattern, the back of another, and a little drafted bit in the middle. Now, to be honest, I mean, there's a bit of the back that's still the same, but otherwise,
it's all yours.
It's all its own thing. And because I sat down I have like a book of croquis because I'm really bad at drawing proportions of people.
Yeah.
But if I have that, I can draw clothes onto it. And that's okay. And I remember sitting down going, oh, well, maybe I can make this work. And then now it exists. And that's wild, like absolutely wild. Because like 3 years ago, I would have had to find a pattern similar to what I wanted.
Yeah, and that's actually something I want to kind of like break that a little bit. I want people to not feel so tied to a pattern. I think one of the elements of the 12-month course every month is looking at how you can take a commercial pattern and hack it, but like uber hack. So we're talking like, you know, you're not just kind of adding a bit of length here or, you know, adding a frill.
Oh, Sarah, you're singing my song there.
Yes, I'm really excited about it. It's gonna be fun. But what I want to try and do is so that you can take any pattern. So I don't want to kind of be like, you know, take this particular brand's pattern by, you know, I will be doing a bit of it with my patterns because that's easy to kind of show people. But then I want them to be able to take their, you know, Tammy handmade pattern or their wardrobe by me, or, you know, a commercial like a simplicity pattern or something like that, and actually just apply what they've learnt to that pattern, because that's when it's like, whoa, you know, I'm a pattern maker.
Exactly. And that's when people learn as well.
Yeah, that whole what if I did? What if I did? And I'm always asking them, what if I made it in this? What if I did this? And I think sometimes sewing, because a lot of people learn at school in some way, shape or form, they still see it like a school-based subject.
Yeah.
And I think, actually, no, this is your hobby. You can play, you can mess around, you can do different things, and you don't have to tell anyone if you don't like it. And I know we've said that so many times, Jessica, and I think we just got to keep saying it.
I think we need to get it printed on something. You don't have to tell any, it's yours.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing, especially with sewing, and I've been talking about this a lot recently. We can't deny there is a financial outlay.
Yes.
And because of the way we are conditioned to see, I've spent money, I'm not very good at this, thus I have failed at it. I'm now never going to do this again.
Yeah.
And the reality of sewing, of anything creative, is that, as Sarah has really rightly said, it's when you really colossally mess something up that you tend to go, well, I'm not doing that again. How do I do that properly? Or what have I done? Or like, those are the moments you learn, but you have to see it as a journey that you acquire skills, sort of like a video game. You just pick stuff up. But it's not a linear journey. And the thing is, you might go...
Take the video game analogy. When you die in the video game, what do? You play the same bit again, and you try it again, and you go down a different corridor. And then when you die, you play it again, and then you go down the different corridor, or you know the bad guy's going to jump out at you. And that is, I think that's the way to look at sewing, isn't it?
And
it's just keep doing it.
To extend the analogy one step further, sometimes in a game you wander into a much higher level section and you colossally wipe out, and that can be what happens with sewing.
And then you go back to basics.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes you go, I've been sewing for a week, I'm going to make a coat. And you're like, oh dear. I wish you luck, and you're going to have a great time. But also,
Have the fabric to make a pair of pyjama bottoms on hand.
Exactly.
To kind of, calm you down when things maybe don't go.
Literally, people have been messaging me saying, is your wedding dress going okay? Because you're sewing with a lot of stretch.
Palette cleansing, my opinion on that. But I do think we are, I'm going to get a bit philosophical here. We are confronted constantly with these gorgeous, amazing fabrics that are quite spendy.
Yep.
And so even sort of quite new sewists buy them because they are amazing. But actually, when you start sewing, when I started sewing, I didn't sew with expensive ones. I'm thrifty queen anyway, but cheap ones that were in the sale, things from charity shops, because then it doesn't cost the earth when you mess up, and we are going to mess up because it's a creative pursuit, and you do mess up when you're doing that. And I've got a stash of fabric that I know I'd never wear out, but it's perfect to try out or for trials. And if I buy something that's cheap, sometimes it's amazing and sometimes it's horrendous, but it doesn't matter if it's horrendous because I can just use it for a trial. And I know it's a risk when I buy from those places.
I mean, it is harder to learn when we're out of the kind of whole school environment. Everybody will admit that it's harder to learn as an adult than it is as a child because you're just not set up for it. But I think we really need to allow ourselves to just have that kind of approach of, I'm just going to give this a go. If it doesn't work out, then I've not lost anything. I have gained something.
I think everyone needs to go back
to
actually where kids learn best, which is in early years, in reception and preschool, where they learn through play and they repeat the activities and it's all experiential, and that sadly goes away. And they're allowed to use hammers and nails and things that suddenly, a year later, no one's like, don't let them touch that. But actually, they build things and they fall down and all those sorts of things. And that is play and experimenting and trying it out is when you get the greatest joy, because then suddenly when you create something you're like, yes, I'm on quilted jacket 9 and it's going to be the best one.
Well, exactly. I think you also have to give yourself the freedom to admit that you may not learn the way you think you learn. So if you so I'm not someone who learned to sew at school ever. I learned to sew in a straight line from my mum, and then I'm pretty much self-taught from there. But as a result, I think I like to think I've acquired knowledge rather than necessarily. I've never sat down and gone, I'm going to learn to do a thing. But you sort of go, how does this work? And it's more of that curiosity that Sam talks about. So whilst what I am saying is you can embrace your learning style. So if you learnt to sew at school, but that kind of association makes you feel like, oh, I'm going to get something wrong and it's going to be a whole problem, and step away. Just try stuff. You're an adult. And one of the nice things about being an adult is that no one's grading you on your hobby.
No.
You can throw it at the wall, go get a glass of wine and come back in an hour. I'm not telling anyone.
I think on that note, that's something that, like, a trap that people fall into is wanting to create an exact copy of something that somebody else has made, or an exact copy of how the dress looks on the envelope of the pattern, how the designer has envisaged it. But actually, like, I want to encourage people to all start to think like the designers of their own wardrobes, but they're their client. So you are thinking about like what your style is, what your lifestyle needs are, what your body shape is, how you want to feel in your clothes. And that's really important because that is not thought out. No. Like, I've worked in the design industry. That is not something that they think about unless it's myself included. Like, I went in at one of the jobs that I was in, and I was like, but what about, what does the customer want? And they're a bit like, don't need to worry about that.
What do you mean? They'll buy it anyway,
I would like to offer a slight counterpoint. I totally agree with you, Sarah, but I think it's okay if you have multiple styles.
Absolutely.
We're often told, find your style, but actually my style from day to day can vary, and I think it's absolutely cool if you've got one style, but also it's absolutely equally as cool if you have 5 different styles depending on which version of you gets up in the morning.
You don't have to have a capsule wardrobe. I tried, and one of the most popular things I've ever posted online ever was the post I did when I told Project 333 to get my bin. Because I was like, do you know what? I have a huge amount of clothes.
Yeah.
I wear all of them though.
Yeah.
I organise my wardrobe by colour, which is over there, and I go, how do I want to feel? And I pick stuff.
Yeah.
But I have so much clothing, and I've discovered that's because I can't wear the same thing all the time. I just, it doesn't work. But you also dress for what you're doing that day, which I think, again...
And for me, the weather, how it makes me feel.
Yeah. I mean, like I said in the last episode, I wear so many different hats. Like, I'm designer, I'm mum, I'm teacher, I'm presenter, I'm all these different things. And I have to have different wardrobes for all of these things, you know, to kind of get me into character. Otherwise, I'm like, if I'm
we all need to be like Mr. Ben.
Yeah. If I'm wearing my really smart teaching clothes and I'm trying to like have fun with my daughter, I'm going to be in work mode. And I need to kind of, you know, have almost like these costume changes to remind me that no, this is time to do this.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like today is a great example. Today I'm wearing an enormous jumper and very loose black trousers, which the girl who did my eyebrows earlier referred to as work pajamas, and she is correct because today I sat in bed on 2 laptops doing data work with headphones in, and I was like, I refuse to have anything touching my waist. I refuse to you know, this is not me today, and that's fine. But tomorrow I might be wearing like an A-line mini and heeled boots and a cute jumper because I'm going to do a thing. You know, like you have to dress for the way you feel and the way you want to feel. I think where we sometimes fall into hot water, particularly with Instagram, people look at photo shoots, and I use the word deliberately, of garments, and they go, oh, that looks amazing. Oh my God, how did they do that? Now, folks, sometimes those garments are zipped up at the back and look beautiful. And sometimes there are the giant crocodile clips you use on a wedding dress holding it tight. And I just need you all to remember they exist and picture it in your head. Because the reality is, for a photo shoot, it has to look perfect in that moment. That model doesn't have to go have lunch in it and catch a bus. They just
when I was modelling for Sarah, I was having to hold the trousers out, wasn't I?
Yeah. Especially with like independent designers, because you can't afford, like, when you're just a small designer, you can't really afford to make like 10 samples. You can't in every single size, so you make like 2 or 3, and then...
it's when he said to me, can you put your hands up? I went, no, I cannot.
No, I can't.
But that's the thing, photo shoots are inherently staged, and I think we forget this because we do mini photo shoots every day now with our phones and with our cameras, and we think about how it'll look. And I think sometimes I would much rather, for example, hear a pattern review from someone who said, right, I've just worn this for 16 hours. This is how I feel in it.
Yeah. Well, when I do my testing, I always get people to tell me, I don't send out my feedback forms until like a week after they've all finished. So they'll tell me on the Facebook group, like, what about the garment. And one of my questions in the feedback official form is, after you made the garment, have you worn it? How does it feel? Is there anything that you'd change, like later on down the line after you've washed it and that kind of thing? You know, because techniques, do they make it through the wash? And
Sarah, that alone is an amazing reason to celebrate you, because that is the rarity in pattern testing. I mean, there's been quite a lot on Instagram lately about the speed of some of the pattern testing things, and people saying it's just, you know. And your thoroughness is why your patterns result in being such fantastic patterns, and also reflecting the knowledge you have as well. They're well tested. Well,
it does. So I've had the privilege of testing for Sarah before, and I love testing for you. It's a joy. I am a very slow pattern tester. Not that I'm a slow sewist. She's nodding. I am incredibly slow.
I like it.
I spend 10% of the time sewing and 90% of the time reading.
Yeah.
Because I'll sew it up and go, oh yeah, that works. That's garments over there. That's fine. But my bugbear are instructions, and I have just done a pattern review where a pattern company still... I'm not going to rant. I'm just going to say it as a sentence. I'm not going to rant. Will not indicate whether they are talking about the right side of a garment as worn or the right side of the fabric, and it drives me up the wall.
Yeah.
Because they're marketed at beginners.
Yes.
And if you're looking at that, you're like, my brain's melting.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of patterns. I remember testing for a brand who will remain nameless. That's quite hard to say. And I had a huge issue with the waistband. They went, oh, well, the pattern's already out. And I was like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
but
my review I did for the pattern company, I didn't get any response because I don't think they like the fact that I asked questions. Like, why have you chosen that?
A design for, I just want to be designing for people. Yeah. And that's kind of why I've gone down this like be your own designer route, because if people are designing for themselves, they're going to probably be their own highest critic. Yeah. But they're going to get the best results because they know what they need out of clothes. And I'm actually doing a talk next week at a place near to us called I've called it something like, this is awful. I've called it Revive, Reconnect, and something. I can't actually remember what I've called it. I've called it 3 R's.
Yeah. I've seen this. I've seen you sharing this. I also can't remember.
I was saying to my studio mate earlier today, I was like, why didn't I call it something that I can remember? But it's going to be about basically like learning how to buy clothes well, and learning what you actually need out of clothes, what questions to ask when you buy secondhand. It's kind of addressing that not everybody is going to want to make their own clothes straight away. Yeah. But I do think once people get used to knowing what good fit feels like on them, then the cogs start whirring and they start thinking, how can I take this to the next level? Maybe if I do a few alterations, which is part of the talk that we're doing. Can I, maybe get my sewing machine out or a needle and thread and amend this and, personalise it. And then maybe they'll go down the route of maybe I can start making my own clothes eventually,
which would be so cool.
We're going to have to stop there, everybody. This has now been officially the longest.
That's not a surprise.
But it's a pleasure. It's such a joy. We do, and Sarah's coming back in season 3. I've sort of decided unilaterally. It's not a season without Sarah. But this has been a joy. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us, your knowledge, for bearing with our, frankly, never-ending biscuit chat. I love it, but thank you. If anyone wants to go and find out what stunning things Sarah's up to, they can find you on Instagram
and my website, myhandmadewardrobepatterns.com. Everything's on there somewhere.
Brilliant. And if you would like to join us, shameless plug for us, if you would like to join our community, we have a subscriber community over on Ko-fi, what Sam insists on calling the Biscuiteers. But please join us in the Biscuit Tin. All links and stuff in our bio, or they will be when I remember to put them in tonight, which I will do. But find us on Ko-fi. We are there. Please support us. It really is just me and Sam sat in various rooms in our house doing this. So any support is gratefully received, particularly so that we can have decent kit. And we have got some really cool stuff coming up. So there's one more episode in this season. But if you're in the Biscuit Tin, you will get some mini eps to tide you over until we come back with the new season 3, whenever that is.
And I'm saving it for episode 8, which is coming. But Jess knows who I bumped into the other day. So
yes, you did. You absolutely did. And if you guys want it, I'll stop talking about my wedding dress in every other episode, but we can do an episode on it if people are interested. And we'll isolate it all, because Sam is coming to my wedding. So we will get plenty of photos of that as well. I also have to say thank you to Sarah for answering my panicked wedding dress questions, which I do occasionally send you and go,
just send them away.
So I'm going to end the episode there.
We're going to wrap up.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Sarah. Bye.
Bye.